Hey everybody, David R. Becker here with Becker Art, and we are going to paint pumpkins. Happy Halloween! Not quite there yet, one more day. But I've done a couple of pumpkins like this before, and always around the Halloween, right? Around the holidays here. And we always do them like orange and really kind of work at them. But this time we're going to do a little bit of difference to them. And actually, I did this one time before, I think, where I've taken it and made them not orange. Well, they're going to be orange, but we're going to use a lot of color in there. Because sometimes, I just look at the picture. Let me just go through this really quickly. And I didn't get any drinks, but I just made myself an iced tea because I have nothing. I have nothing. Actually, it was a Arnold Palmer with I have no alcohol in the house, but it's just ice. It's lemonade and iced tea. So, cheers, everybody. It's just nothing. I just mixed it with real lemons. So we can't find any. I can't find a place that sells single beers. So until I find them, we're gonna probably watch that and just not do it until we find something. Anyways, so let's go to our website really quick. My website is davidrbecker.com or beckerart.net. Somebody just contacted me about getting beckerart.com. But I'm probably going to go, I think, with my new website that's coming up, hopefully in a couple months, is I'm going to probably just do the davidrbecker.com. But Becker Art is my company name. But so anyways, that's my website, beckerart.net or davidrbecker.com. Don't forget the R on my David. All right, and then just get all your stuff down here when I'm having class. Not doing any workshops this next year. There is one I'm doing in Iowa, but that I put together 2 years ago, so that one I have to do. But yeah, get everything here on my website, and you're all good. Supplies, of course, my Holbein paints, my Holbein brushes that have my name on them. And the colors are going to be all different coming up when I get this palette made, and I'll be talking about that again a little bit tonight. And once I get this palette made, I'm going to finally have all the same palettes. I'm going to make about 5 of them if I have to. It's just so I don't switch around my palettes and never know what I have. All right, and so let's go to value pattern right away. So here's the all the pumpkins that are all orange, right? And we have just one kind of color, orange and dark orange. And so what we're going to do is we're going to do a little bit of difference in the fact that we're going to be adding color into this, so it's not all just orange. And they'll still look like orange pumpkins, but we can make the background a little bit less orangey and maybe make it blues. And what's a good color for orange is blue. But I'm going to make more yellow orange, and then we have a yellow, which we can violets. And so we'll make it a little bit more violet-y. So look at all this dark area, too. And the dark area will all come together as one. So there's not like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 pumpkins. It's going to be more like one big wash for all the pumpkins. And so that'll be a neat wash to put in there. And I'm going to try to get a lot of this in the front right here. So this right here, I'm not going to make it so that you can't see maybe a little bit of the bottom of the pumpkin. In some parts you can see the bottom of the pumpkin. But it's all together with one big wash. I'm going to try to get this all done very quickly and with maybe a different kind of style. And maybe it's, I do spatter in there, or maybe I scratch it up or whatever, or do whatever. So that's one big area. And so let's just have some fun with some color too. Let's go to our tabletop and get going here. And so here's my drink in the corner. And so I drew it up, and I've been trying to do a little bit of lately with those watercolor pencils. I kind of like to shade a little bit, but because I'm doing something that's totally different, I'm just going to try to do some random colors, and I'm not going to go with my color scheme. I'm going to, it's like orange, but orange and blue, yellow and purple, and something like that. All right. And this is, it's an easy one to draw because, you can't be off on pumpkins that much. It's not like you're doing a face or anything. So just have fun with the shapes of the pumpkins. I do like overlapping them, and I let them go off the page a little bit so that you don't have and so some people ask me, well, where's the center of interest on this then? Which pumpkin is the center of interest? It's not the pumpkin, it's the area. And so I would say the area would be the front pumpkin. And do I have let's see if I have here we go. So I have this arrow right here. And so let me show you where the center of interest is. It's pretty much going to be this whole area, this front on the top of this pumpkin right here, and all this area. That's the whole area. It's not a thing, a lot of times. I like to call it a center of interest, but I like to call it more of an area of interest, if anything. It's the area right here that's your center of interest. And so they should have called it area of interest. And anyways, let's get going here on our Halloween Eve. Thanks, Barbie. Anything else? Anybody has some questions yet? Let me see. Hey, Maura. Hey, Barbie. Hey, Carol, Sherry, Marian, and Maria, and Tina. Thanks for coming by. So many people want to do pumpkins, huh? So here we go. And so let me get my little thing out of the corner here. All right, so I'm probably going to wet the whole surface and get my light colors like I always do. Remember, always the first step, the Becquerel 3-step is the lights. And so I'm going to put in the lights in and not worry about the darks, because I do want to make sure that the darks are kind of compatible with the lights. So I will be putting different colors of light in there too, so that it won't shift a lot. So let's wet the whole thing. I'll take my big round. Oh, that's not very big. Let's get my 1 1/4 inch brush. Before we get started, I wanted to show you. Here's my new palette. This is my new palette that I made, and I am gonna. This is hot glue that I put this all together with. I didn't put sides on it. Because I don't think it needs it. I was going to do it with sides, like so that the plexiglass has a side to it. But these cups already, I think, are going to be fine enough. And I did get this off of here, so I want to be able to replace it. But it was very hard to get it off. I mean, I had to pull it off there pretty hard with a spatula. I went underneath there and kind of shifted it off. So, and then now I'm going to have to take a razor blade and get that off of there. But somebody just told me about something else that I can use for glue. It's like a tacky thing. And so I'm waiting for that tomorrow and from Amazon, and we're going to see. And so we're going to build this, show you how I built it. And you could build it whatever size you want. And it'll be finally my palette of choice. And I'm going to make about 5 of them so that all my colors will be in the same spot. And when I shift one later on, if I don't like the color wheel type of thing area I have in there, and there's probably too many colors anyways, but if I want to change colors or shift it around, I'll be able to do that really easily with maybe this other techie stuff. And then I can have it any size I want. I can make it this size. I made it to the size so that these fit from side to side, these little container things, these little pans. And so I'm getting really excited about that, so that I don't have to switch from outside to inside studio palette. They will always be the same, because you got to get used to certain colors being a certain place so that you always go back into them. And this one I'm using tonight, this one here, that one is my plein air painting. And when I used my studio one, which you saw was always bigger, it was different. And so that gets really confusing sometimes when you go back to your studio and then you don't have the same palette. So that's why I'm starting to use this palette, but and I didn't put in all the colors right now, because we'll do that in my new website too. We'll know exactly what color is going to be in exactly what spot, because I can put them there, and it'll be all new. And so coming up this new year, we're going to be doing a lot of different things, and we're going to start out January 1st, and we're going to be doing a lot of, from step 1 again, like one color. Matter of fact, we were just going to do a black and white when we first did the one color this year, and we're just going to go there from start to finish, so. That's that. So let's get going here. And so, like I said, I was going to wet the whole paper. And get my lights. I'm just going to wet the whole paper, and it's 300 pound Stonehenge. It's not on a board. It's not on a panel. I didn't glue it down. Matter of fact, it's on a piece of paper that has a painting on the opposite side that I did a couple weeks ago. And I just didn't like it that much. And a lot of times I don't like waste paper, so I'm just doing it right on top of the back of 300 pound. You can work on the back really easily. Look, it even takes away some of the paint that's left there. All right, so there's my lights. And again, when you wet the back of the paper, or the front of the paper, sometimes you can even wet the back so that it lays flat. And now when you're doing it on cloth, like on a towel like I am, then it's going to soak in and dry up. So you may want to put on a piece of plexiglass on top of your, put it on top of the plexiglass, and the plexiglass on top of your towel. But I like to really wet it a lot, and then I let it sit for a little bit. Let it sit a little bit so that it soaks into the paper. Don't just start right away. Give it a chance to soak in and give it all even. If you feel like parts are going too much in, then wet it again. And have a lot of water so that you get a lot of time to put in your lights. And so I'm going to, my palette's kind of dirty here, but that's okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to think, okay, orange and turquoise is, I think, my color scheme. And so I'm going to take a little turquoise first off, just a little turquoise, and I'm going to use it for the back pumpkins. I know it sounds weird that I'm using turquoise up here, but it's like turquoise and maybe a purple And this is my lights. These are my lights. And I just want to have it so the background is cool. And then when I come to the front, it's going to be warm. And just putting a little bit of turquoise in there. Turquoise and a little violet. Lavender, maybe a little turquoise. And that's really not on my color list in the front, but it will be when I start redesigning my palette, and I'll put all the exact colors in there. And all right, and so right away I do want to get some yellow and orange in there, so that's not bad. Now I have to watch out for green. I don't want any green in here, even though turquoise is a blue-green, but the orangey red, maybe I'll have orangey red in there. Let's get more lighter. Again, I'm doing my lights, so I gotta stick with my light colored parts of the pumpkin. Use more of a red-orange when you're going into the pumpkins. Now I'm going to keep this pretty light, especially this one right here, when I have a pretty light yellowish orange right here. And you notice how I'm not doing exactly a pumpkin. I'll do that with the darks. I'll create the shape of the pumpkins with the darks. Right now I'm getting the lights of that. I'm putting turquoise in there too. Just going to let them float together. I should be using those colors that are the granular colors that granulate so nicely. Here, I'm going to keep a little bit of white of the pumpkin. Let's keep a little bit of the white. I probably should have done that here too. Keep the edge a little bit whiter, a little bit lighter, and I can just rub that out. You see I just rubbed that out? Turquoise up here. Let things float, and one side, maybe the cool side of the pumpkin, can be a little bit more like purples and the turquoise. And you don't have to follow the color scheme, because as long as you follow the value pattern, you can do whatever you want for color. Anything you want, absolutely anything. If I want to make these pumpkins all blue, that would be fine too, as long as you follow the value pattern. That's how come it's fun experimenting with stuff like this. It's kind of fun to try to see what happens if I make, let's say, maybe this is going to be a really red right over here. So we get a color scheme of red and a little bit of turquoise, which is kind of a blue-green. And that still works too. It doesn't have to be a lime green or a dark green. It's just going to be something close to green. When I say that, when I'm talking about complements, it don't have to be exactly a certain exact color. Like when I say orange, it could be an orange red, it could be an orange yellow, as long as it's close to the orange. And these are my lights. Just gonna have fun with some lot of little, pretty much I have every color in here right now, except for what other color do I have in here? I don't have like a bright blue. I have a turquoise blue, which is more of a green, with the red and orange, and the blue will be the turquoise. I do have a little purple for the yellow. And when I go in there later to get my really dark darks, then I'll have different colors in there too. Definitely different colors. Again, I'm going for my lights. And if you have questions, please let me know. Pat, don't worry about it. You can always be late. You can. It's not a problem ever. You can always go back later on. You can go right now, but then you won't be live. If you go back right now to the beginning, then you're going to miss a little bit of that. So here's a little bit of a shadow in there. So let me put that in there right away. What the heck? And the more I paint, the more I'm noticing I'm using a lot more pigment nowadays, because when it's really wet like this, it's fun to let pigment float around and do its thing. That's one time you can have it do its thing, is when it's wet like this, and just go in, and you can control the edges a lot easier too if you use a lot of pigment. Like right here, see, I can use a lot of pigment and then just figure out my my values and my edges. I can make my edges pretty dark and pretty sharp, even though they'll be sharp, but there's still going to be soft edge. There's still going to be soft edge because it's a lot of paint, and that a lot of paint with a lot of pigment and a lot of water, or just a little bit of water, makes a really nice way of handling your pigment. You could also do a limited palette, like with just orange and black. You could do that too, because that's really the colors of Halloween, right? It's always like just really bright, or it's a really dark purple. And maybe that's what I'll do. Maybe I'll put some dark purple in here later. But for right now, these are my lights. These are the things that are going to be light. And then a little bit of green in my thing because I have that blue with the yellow. So let's put a little bit more orange, red orange over here. Let that float in there. I'm not trying to get the lines so much, but I could get some of these lines if I want. While it's wet, you can get some of this. But again, I'm just trying to get the light colors. I'm just going for the colors. Number one wash is the lights and the color scheme in some ways, you know, because it's kind of a scheme of orange and blues and yellow and violets. Right now it's orange and blue mostly. Let's get some more violets in here. Let's get some violet-y stuff in here. So you don't have to get the edges of the pumpkin right now. And see back there, it's all blurry. And so I want that to be blurry because I want this to be the background so that you don't really see everything that much. That's kind of an ugly green back there, isn't it? So let's change that. Let's change that to a little bit more of the purple. So what do? I don't go on my drink. Cheers, everybody. Just lemonade. Cheers. Take some purple. See how I can take things out if I don't like the color of green back there. Look at how I can just easily change it to purple, to a violet. You know, I can go in there with a violet, maybe a little bit darker violet. Another violet and lavender. And just let that be a little bit more lavendery with the yellow next to it. Same thing right here, you put more lavender. But get rid of the color underneath it first because it's going to mix in. So first thing I do is I wet it. I pull out those colors a little bit so that I get rid of that. And you can do this at any time of the painting when you re-wet, and then just let it be wet, and then just put things in, take things out. It really does not matter if it's, you know, until you get to where you finally want the wash to be, then it's fine. But you don't have to be worried that you can't go back into something. You definitely can go back into stuff. You know, put a little yellow on the edge of this. See how I'm just moving? I'm pushing pigment around. And that's what we watercolors do. We push pigment around in a wet wash into water. Water lets it be a soft edge. Dry paper lets it be a hard edge. But while it's wet, you can just float other colors in there and just let them float. That's the thing with me, is I want you to float that pigment. So yes, there's a lot of orange in there. It's still going to look like orange pumpkins, but there's also a lot of other colors in there that aren't orange. That isn't orange. I mean, that aren't orange. Reddish orange right here. There is going to be a shadow right here. I can put a little bit of that in there. But I want to have a little bit more violet. I think I like that violet a lot. Well, those are my two favorite colors, by the way, is violet and orange. So, and they're not complementary, but you can make them like a violet a little bit more blue, so then it does feel a little bit more like yellow blue, or yellow and blue, yellow and purple. I mean. Okay, so now this is my first wash. That's the lights, right? I think that's going pretty well. It's not bothering me. It's just nice. Just a nice wash. If you want to have it textury, you could spatter it, or you know, kind of make it not so slick. Do a more wet on dry, so you get a lot of hard edges. But I like that first edge, the first wash, to be soft edged. This pumpkin back here just bugs me, so let's just get a little bit more of the yellow white back in there. Because I do want my light areas to look like they're light areas, they're really bright areas. This is going to be a dark side of the pumpkin, so that I can do later with the darks. That'll be dark back there. This has got to be light, and there's a light shining right on here, so I'm going to take a little bit of that out of there. So I just took out some of the pigment. Because while it's wet, you can still take things out. So look for it while it's wet to take things out and put them in. Either way. And then here, this pumpkin is really bright right here. So look, it's still wet, so I can just pull out some of the paint to get back to the white of the paper. See, I'm taking the edges where I think it's going to be really light, and I'm just pulling away some of the pigment to get back to the white of the paper. Goes all the way to here. I just wet my brush, put it on my towel. I put it on my towel, get rid of all the heavy amounts of water, and then I looked where is it going to be really bright and light, and I'm just going to suck up. I'm sucking up the pigment on the paper and getting it back to white. Look at how it just pulls right out. You can make a hard edge. And see, now the sun looks like it's hitting right there. It's really bright. And so that's how come I want you to work and learn how to work wet into wet, because there's so many things you can do in that first wash by pulling in paint, putting in paint, pulling out paint, and using the white of the paper to get your lights. And that's transparency. I mean, it's transparent then. You know, it'll work for the transparent societies, you know, where you're wanting to do a painting transparently with no opaques. It's just that you're controlling the pigment to soft edges, and you're taking out your lights and putting in your darks. All right, so I'm going to let that dry. So while this is drying, I'm going to start doing my darks right away. I'm going to go in there, and some of the back edges could be softened anyway, so why not let them be soft and just be really dark? Let's look at our value study again real quickly to see where my darks are. And so this is just my color version of it, but if I squint my eye, I see this, right? I'm going to see this. And so right here is, I'll maybe start down here and then just to take care of this corner. Because this is a spot I can stop right here. I can stop because then I can get the background. Or I can work from the back, you know, get the background, which is blurry right now and wet. And so I can get these soft edges, but look at how dark this is back here. And it doesn't have to be black, but it just should be darker back here. And the left goes over this. This is all dark back here around this one little pumpkin. And then this way back here, I'm going to make that's too bright for me. That's way back there, that's too bright. So should I make that dark? Yeah, I'm going to make this way back there dark. All right, let's do that. Carol asked what violet I'm using. I'm using permanent violet and lavender. Those are the only two color I usually use. I do have lilac. I have lavender, lilac, and permanent violet. There's also a brilliant violet, which I think is this one right here. Or is it this one? This is mineral violet. There's also mineral violet, but that's I usually use outside, or imidazolone brown. That's like a brownish violet. But yeah, I'm just using permanent violet and lavender for this one right here. But look at how many colors there are already in there. And not just orange and not just yellow. There's all the colors in there right now. And so let's do the backgrounds because that's starting to dry a little bit. And here I'm talking a lot, so that I just hurry, let it wait a little bit. I couldn't find my Malibu rum because I usually like putting a little bit of Malibu rum in there because you put that in anything and it tastes really, really good. So, all right, so I think we're ready for the darks. I'm just going to do the darks in the background. And the darks will be, oh my God, look at that brush. I didn't clean that one out. I'm terrible with brushes, I swear to God. I'll never clean them. Luckily, I'm doing watercolor and not acrylic or oils, and then they would just stiffen up to nothing. But see, it just instantly goes back. And so let's take a little bit of a darker bluish. Maybe let's take some of this violet, permanent violet. That's a brilliant violet. See, that's a brilliant violet. It's a little bit more reddish in the violet. I'm going to take some of the blue and turquoise. Just get a really dark, you know, maybe even a little bit of black in there. So let me just see what happens if I do this. Yeah, that's really dark, right? Maybe I don't want to go that dark, but maybe I do. I don't know. Let's see. Because once it's wet, then I can put other things in there. But I just want to see what it looks like. Now it's too wet. I just put a big wash, and then that's going to seep into the wetness. So that's going to be a really soft edge right there of the pumpkin. And that's not a bad thing either, though. That's okay. And this side of this pumpkin is blue, but I'm going to keep it blue. Just going to make this side a little bit darker. And whatever side of the stem on the pumpkin should be the same on this side. Don't switch your on one side to the other. It has to be the same color. Not always the same value, but the same color, so that it feels like you're going behind it and not stopping. And this is something else. And then the pumpkin on this side is a little bit darker and shiny, so I'm just gonna, and it also directs the color, or directs the shape of the pumpkin in front of it. Let's make that a little bit of darker red. And you can start up with pretty much any color, and then you, while it's wet, then you can put other colors in there. And if you want to make it look exactly like the photo, then that's fine too. You use those colors, but I tend to like to change it a little bit up. Change it up a little bit. A little bit of orange in there. And notice there's these little lines that go down. But this is all going to be soft edge, so I'm just going to kind of put it in there soft edge wise. And it's going to show me the shape of this pumpkin behind, in front, right to the edge of the stem of the pumpkin. And so I know that's just kind of a violety, orangey red maybe. And that'll all be good. And I'm getting a soft edge because I didn't let it dry. So, but I am using enough paint that it's stopping right there. So that's good. And then this pumpkin is light right there. And so let me just do the edges first. I really don't try to worry about edges or colors that much. I really worry more about the values. If you do that, you're definitely going to get a good picture. You may not get exactly the colors you want, but you know, the color schemes and stuff is something you got to work on and figure out what you like more than others. And a lot of times I go to different painters and check out their color schemes and what they use, and I try to copy them a little bit to see what they had used on certain paintings and stuff. And it's really cool. Because they may all do the same kind of picture, but then when you see, it's not exactly like what you see it in the real life, because they use certain colors in their palette, and they use them a lot, and so they get a certain look with a certain color scheme. And so then this has a little shadow right there, and so since the pumpkin is not really orange right there, it's kind of a dirty purple blue. I'll put a little bit of like a shadow right there. Then we can go into this pumpkin later, because right now it's a soft edge, and I don't want to mess up that soft edge. Let's go to this pumpkin right here, work our way forward. Well, let's work on, let's see, is that one dry? No, nothing's dry yet. All right, let's try some purple on the side here. This is going to be a dark purple. And I'm going to get the edge of that. I'm negative painting the one in front of it. And then I'm going to start doing those lines that the pumpkins have. And I should have drawn them in more because I'm just kind of making them up right here. So there's lines in the pumpkins. And so it's good to have them drawn in so you know exactly where you want to put them. Because sometimes it may not be their same angle, you know, because you kind of want to have the same angle. So it looks like it's a certain way, sitting a certain way, the pumpkin. And see how I used purple on that? I just used the purple. I just find if it's just one color like that, I feel like I need to have more than just one color. But you can always make it one color, and I think for beginners that could even be a good thing, is to use one color. Because then you think more about the values. But so many of you are advancing so well and so fast that I got to keep up with you guys and get you some more heavy-duty things to paint. And there's a little shadow on this pumpkin. And then the stem, I'm going to just put the stem in right away. Why not? Put a little bit of the dark into the stem. Because anytime you can get things together with one wash, let it float into each other, the better. Excuse me. Alright, and so that's the stem. And it is very light right there, so I can pull that out later so that it looks more like it's on. The pumpkin here will be darker. But I don't want to do that yet. I want to wait until the pumpkin dries. Can I do that one yet? No. Let's do this big one here. Let's get into the big one right. What the heck? I am doing my large areas of dark, but they kind of fall in. Like I want to do them when they're wet or when they're dry, so I can get the hard edge. Like on this pumpkin, I want to get a hard edge. Okay, let's do this. I think I can. This whole thing is dry now. Don't touch with your fingers because it gives you oil. So always use the back of your hand and feel it. If it feels cold, that's okay. Then it's still dry, but it's just cold, so it just got dry. It's when you pick something up and it's wet, then yeah, don't go into that area. But right now here, I gotta look at this salmon color. So I gotta pick that. I'm gonna start out with that salmon color, a little bit darker, and I should be doing this right from this pumpkin down to here and all together. But I think I can stop right there and make that look like it's still part of it. So I'm gonna start right there with the salmon color, and salmon color is a pink and orange, so like red and orange. And make it a little bit darker, and I will start right here with a hard edge, and it kind of goes across here and hits that little part and it goes up, and then I can wet inside there because it's going to be really dark, but at first I've got to get the hard edge. Now inside it's all wet into wet, then I get darker as I go over here, and then it goes up as a soft edge, and then I'll wet as I go along. So it looks all really weird right now because I'm just wetting it and getting the hard edge. But then once it's all wet, then I'm gonna work it. I'm gonna work it so that this part will be. I'll pick up one of the lines first. All right, now watch how I add color into this. Dark colors, because I want that to be really dark, and so I'm just going to go into all these colors, purple, blue. I'm just going to start putting them down and seeing what I can get. And still some of the salmon-y color. And this is all really wet now, so it's going to be soft edged. Maybe a little bit of purple down and way in the deep depth of it. Way down here is really dark. And I don't want to see the difference between the bottom of the pumpkin and the table, where it hits the table, and the table itself. I don't want to see that. I just want it to be dark right now. One big wash. You don't have to identify. We know it's sitting on something. We don't have to identify exactly what it's sitting on. Now this gets a little light here, and then it gets really dark right there, so I'm going to put the dark in there. That's a blue and purple. I'm just going to put that in here to make a really dark color. And then I'll pick up some red. And then just let everything float together on its own. And then these lines are going to be a little bit darker. And so I'll put them in right away too, and I'll just go up to them. And I never have to worry about blending. That's one thing I never worry about. I just let the water blend itself, blend the pigment together on its own. I don't have to worry about that part. That part happens on its own. I do want everything to float together nicely though. I want it to all get even and let those colors float together nicely. And notice I'm getting a little bit of dark up here. I do want to keep it a little bit lighter on top right there. And I can do that by just pushing pigment around all the wetness. Now let's make sure it looks kind of weird right now. It doesn't look like a shadow, right? Because it's just, it goes from a light to a dark a little bit too fast, and it's pretty hard. But once I get the darker darks in there, the really dark darks, then it'll show. It'll be fine. I have to just keep at this spot. I don't move on until this is done. I don't move on to the next part until that wash that I'm working on is working well and it looks good. This is a dark detail part of it, and so I do want to make it look good right now. I don't want to ever come back to this area. Just want to kind of get it done now. And then I'll move on down here. And as long as it's wet, you have a lot of time. You have tons of time to get in here and just work it and push the pigment around. That's what happens when you're outside and you don't get the time because it's drying too fast or something. If it's damp, it's fine because then you can wait for things to, dry a lot longer. But if it's hot and you're out there and sometimes it's so hot that it just dries like right away, and that's where it gets tough. But in your studio, it should be a lot of time. You should have a lot of time just to work it until you get what you want and then move on. And then the shadows are here, but I'm not doing so much the shadow right now. I'm just getting that part done. And then I'm going to wet this area and work it. Again, that area, only that area then. It's a big area, so I just got to make sure I go slow enough that I get this done. Don't move on. You don't need to move on until you get that part done. Because then, if you jump back and forth, then you're never going to get anything good. It's just, it doesn't look good when you jump back and forth and you're not getting it. This is really dark down here. So I'm adding a lot of nice pigment, a lot of nice colors in my darks. First I go with one color just to get it dark, and then I put other things in there. I can even put light colors in there just to get more pigment in there. And now that's pretty dark. And that's one thing too. You can always get things darker later on. You don't have to get the darkest right away, but it's nice if you do get them right away. If you don't, though, you can go back in and put them darker again later. Now I'm going to take a clean brush and wet the area here, this whole area, because I want that to be wet. I don't want to disturb it too much, so I'm taking it real lightly and just wetting the area so I can get some soft edges there. And then I'm going to work this area now just like I worked that area until I feel it's done. And that's like I'm always having you always learn how to control your pigment between hard edges and soft edges and getting harder edges with a lot of water. You know, when there's a lot of water down, you gotta use more pigment and you can make it look more hard edged. Even though it's wet and it's gonna be a soft edge, you can make it look harder. And these lines here, this is wet, that's a hard edge, so I can keep that hard edge there. I'm just looking for this to be a soft edge right here. And it's a lot darker than this, but now I'm going to go in with a nice dark. I'll take orange, take a midsole and brown, like a brownish purple. And then I'm going to go in here, look at the picture and go, okay, there's a bunch of little dark little parts that go up. These little lines go up here. And there's a little light. And then some lines here. I didn't draw them out exact, so they'll be a little bit different because you don't have to do them exactly like they are in the picture, but just close enough. Close enough is good. So I'm just getting darker as I go down and getting darker as I go down, and I'm letting it float. I'm letting it be soft. It's just pigment in water, and it's going to soften itself. I'm just getting darker until I get to the shadow part. And then, because I don't want just that one color, I'm going to all of a sudden sneak another color in there. Like, look at it, I'm going to sneak a little bit of lavender and violet in there. It'll be something totally different, but it looks fine because it's wet in the wet, and it'll be kind of a gray. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's okay to put like a purple in there because it's the shadow part. And I'm looking for the value, so you don't have to get always the same color. You can just make it with a different value or different color, but the same value that you're working with the other color. How about a little turquoise in there? What happens if I put turquoise in there? Ooh, look at that! Isn't that cool? Drop a little turquoise in there. What the heck? It's gonna float too. Same thing. It's the same thing about pigment. It'll just float there, and it'll give me a different color. I like it look because it looks like it's reflecting other colors within the area. So then maybe I can put like a little turquoise up here too. You can just make that as part of the shadow. That's where it'd be fun to learn a lot. Is you just have to do a lot of painting, and that's what you do. You try things that you've never done before. Like I've never done this kind of thing where I put turquoise in an orange pumpkin. But the more you try different things, you may find that later on that combination works so well for you that you're going to start using it elsewhere where you think that it may look good. I mean, I kind of like that lavender in there, or the turquoise. And then that could be like a orange. A bit more orangey. I didn't look for questions. You all went away. The advertising went back again. Nope, no questions. All right, let's go to this bigger pumpkin now, because that's pretty much my values there are pretty much okay. I'm going to make this darker. Let's do it darker right now. What the heck? I'm going there with a really dark purple. Look at how dark that purple is. I'm going to take a little bit of black and get the bottom of the pumpkin a little bit. I am now I'm not scared of black anymore, of using the color black by itself and then adding color to it, because it's sometimes necessary to make something really, really dark. And what I like to do is use the black first, and then I put color into that black to make it colorful. And I know a lot of people say mix your blacks, and that's fine too. If you can mix your blacks, and it makes it look really nice and colorful. But I find that a lot of students don't know how to mix black, and so just take black, start with black, and mix color into the black, and you'll do just as well. Matter of fact, you do better, because it's very easy to just take black and then mix color into it. Now let's get to this pumpkin. This is all dry now, so I don't need that hard a line right there, and so I'm just going to take and wet the area. Now let me think first. Let me do these lines on top with a round brush. Where's my round? Okay, up here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this part of the pumpkin and work my way down this way. And so first thing I want to do is get those little lines. And this is your center of interest. So here I'm going to spend a little bit more time in getting these lines exactly. And I am on my large dark area, but it's part of my large area, so I'm going to take a little bit more time since it's my center of interest. And that's possible. You can do that too. You don't have to always do all the dark areas at once. You know, I'm just going to get this. This is part of my large area, but it kind of is more detailed right here. And then there's the shadow across the pumpkin I'm just taking colors off my palette here that I've already used, and I don't have to even think about it. I'm just going to go in here and get those. This is the pumpkin shadow, or the stem, and its shadow across here. And then there's a really bright light right here. And I'm just getting those lines. So, and it's harder to do that with the big brush, but it goes down into the darks, right? It goes into the dark, so I'm getting this first so that it's easier to do with a round brush like this. And just get those lines hard edged, and then I'll go back in and get the big area, and this will be already done. See, that's easy to do with that. And now I'm going to take my big brush and I can wet the rest of this part. There's a little shininess from that part. It looks like it's really orangey right there, so I'm going to put a really thick orange right there. And then just take it down and let this all bleed together. And it also is reflecting a lot of orange right on the top here. It's reflecting a lot of orange, but when it's wet, it'll just slip in there and be real nice, soft edged. And as I go down, I'll make it a little bit darker, use some of that brown again down here. And by now it dried, so I'm not going to get a super soft edge, but I will get a little bit soft, a little bit harder edge because it's already dry a little bit. And then re-wet this whole area as I'm going along. I wet it as I go along. I call that wetting as you go along, because this is dry, but once I hit it with my brush, then it's wet, and then I can float other colors in there. And again, remember what I did over there with the turquoise? Well, let's copy that a little bit. Let's get, looks like there's a little reflection right here of a little turquoise, and let's do that. So I'm overemphasizing some of the things that I'm doing so that it's not just one color, of orange. I do like it to be a lot of orange, you know, because the pumpkin is orange, but it doesn't mean the whole thing has to be really bright orange. Now over here, I kind of didn't get the lights exactly right. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go back up in here and take a little bit of this yellowy orange, and just kind of get this a little bit darker. And then I get the lines in there too at the same time. No questions, guys? Give me some questions. So let's leave this for detail up here. Let's leave the stem for detail. Now let's get this big large area here. Actually, let's start up back here on this pumpkin and work our way around there. So let's again, let's do with a smaller brush. I'm going to get the line work done on the top here. You know, use a smaller brush when you're doing smaller things. Large areas, use a larger brush. It just makes really good sense to do that, you know, because a lot of times I could do the whole painting with my large brush, but I can get things done a little tighter when I'm using a nice thin brush. It just is easier. It makes it a little bit easier to. And basically, the lines go all the way around the pumpkin, and so you kind of know exactly kind of what it looks like, and so you don't have to do it exactly like that pumpkin. As long as you know there's lines all around, you can kind of make those up a little bit too. And that's one thing I do a lot of, is making things up, because you know, I can't do exactly what's there sometimes in the photograph, or I just didn't do it at that time. So it's okay to make things up as long as you get the basics of what the thing looks like. And here we have a shadow from this pumpkin across here, and it's a pretty hard edge, right? It's a pretty hard edge, so it's dry right there. Now I'm going to take my bigger brush, because I do like using my bigger brush for bigger areas. And this goes down really, really dark right here. That's kind of waiting for it to dry right there, so I can now I just wet it, and then I fool around with that area until I get what I like. And this area here is darker than this pumpkin. This pumpkin is dark, is a little bit lighter than this dark, and so that's really, really dark. So I'm going to go in there with a purple, brown, and I'm just going to put in thick amount of pigment to get that really dark with one shot. I don't want to go back in there and get down there and do it again. I just want to make it's wet right now. Put the pigment in there, get it done, let it float. Even if you got to use black right in here. And don't do this dark right now, because that's lighter, and so I can do that. I should have done that first, this part, but you know, sometimes you don't do it exactly the way you want to, and so and that's okay. You know, you can always go back and get a little bit closer there. And ooh, I just put a big blop right there. Oh boy, what did I do? So now I'm going to take my smaller brush and just softening this up a little bit here, making it look like it's going into the back. Okay, well this is drying. I can't go into that right now because that's going to be a little bit lighter, unless I use a lot of pigment. And here are a few more lines that go here. Any questions? Nope, no questions. Come on guys, ask me questions. Let's get these lines in this pumpkin a little bit sharper than they are. Because I want to match this kind of look to the other pumpkins too. Because if you got one kind of look and you really like it, keep on going with that look of these lines. And that looks good on these pumpkins, and so I'm going to make sure I have that the rest of the pumpkins too. Okay. Let's get this pumpkin now. See, that's just a really bright, and look at how it floated in there. I can wipe that out when it's dry too, if I feel I need to get that in there. Let's do this one now, and let's just start in back there. Start with a blue this time, because I have this kind of bluish up here, so I'm not going to change colors now. I can't change to orange, so I'm going to make these lines with a little bit of blue. The turquoise, that's a little kind of muddied. And get the side of this the stem here a little bit. I've been calling it stem. I think that's what they call it. And then we get the side of here, make that a little bit darker. It's pretty dark right here, and there's a nice shadows throughout there. And that's where the photograph does come in handy when you're kind of copying something. Don't be afraid of using the photo to make it look like what it is up there. I'm always saying I don't want to make it look exactly like the photo, but the photo is definitely what you're working from, so it's okay to use it for what it looks like. Remember the shadow, and look at how gray the shadow is. I'm making the gouache in blue because I wanted to push it back. I don't want it to come too far forward. And this is a shadow from the stem. What time is it? Oh man, I better go a little faster here. I am taking a little bit more time. I'm kind of making it, I'm trying to do one wash and it's done, basically, is what I'm trying to do. And sometimes you have to work a little bit slower because you're doing it that way. Because you're taking and doing like step 2 and step 3 all at once. Because I'm just want it to be done. And so I'll do the whole wash, the dark and the middle tone, and the detail all at once. That's a little bit lighter dark than the dark that's next to it. This pumpkin right there has to be nice. It has to look nice right there because this is a part of the center of interest. So I'm spending a little bit more time right there, getting the look a little bit better right there, getting the hard edges to look right. And also this is the light part of it. No, I don't have any of that purple. I gotta get that purple in there somewhere. Let's put some of that purple in there because if it's only one spot, that would not be good. So let's put a little bit right here. Let's put that purple right there. Maybe a little bit purple on the stem. Maybe over here. That's one thing you really got to watch out for. If you have one color somewhere, you got to have it somewhere else. It has to be part of the color scheme, and I really don't have that much purple, so I may have to change that. As a matter of fact, I'll probably have to change it to turquoise because I don't think I can get that in there now. Enough of it to look okay. When a color like that sticks out and you notice it, and it's in the corner, you definitely don't want that to be in the corner, for one. And these lines go from thin, and then they get to part of the thickness of the pumpkin itself. Maybe instead of purple, let's put turquoise there again. And while I have it in my brush, I'm just going to put that turquoise up here because that's not going to work with the purple by itself up there. There we go, that's better. It may be just a small thing, but I'm always looking for, all the little things together with the big things. It has to match. It has to look like one kind of color scheme. And it could just be a wash of it, just a little bit, but all should be the same then. So then this goes from that color to a dark blue again. And let's just dull this up so it just goes to softness. Down here, we'll just make this a little bit darker. So pretty much we have the big parts done, right? Now it looks like pumpkins, and we got all the big values done. This will have to be a little bit darker back here again, and so again I'll use turquoise and make it just a little bit, instead of the purple back there, just make it a little bit darker. around the stem. Let things float. While it's wet, it's okay to float things. And if you feel like you just don't want any of those other colors in there, you just want to do it orange, be my guest. It's not a big deal. I just want to show you that there is other ways of doing it, just other than copying the photograph to a T. Because you're the artist. You don't have to make it look like a photograph. You want to make it look like a beautiful painting. And changing color sometimes is a way to make it a little bit different than a photograph. Alright, let's get the detail in there now. So the detail is basically what it sounds like. It's all the little things that make it look like the item that it is. And these pumpkins have a lot of lines in them. Take my rigger brush to get some of these really fine lines. See, I'm just taking my fine brush and I'm just kind of making the darks go to the lights on these lines. And this I'm just copying whatever I see in the photograph. I am totally copying now everything I see in there. Now that stem is kind of violet-y, but because I've used a lot of turquoise, I'm going to make it turquoise first. Maybe a little bit of violet. It looks like it goes on top here, and then it has this swift, like dark edge right there. And don't be afraid of grays, because a lot of the stem is gray, but I put color into it also a little bit. You can just add a little bit of color of orange in there, and burgundy, and turquoise. And then there's a little bit of the stem part that's hard-edged. The top of the thing I made it bigger, I drew it bigger than it is, so that is just going to be like gray. A little texture in there. Maybe a little bit darker with a little bit of dark purple here. To where I'm almost black. Because there are some really dark darks in this part, and so don't be afraid of putting them really dark. If there's texture of dark, just tap it in. And you can get as detailed as you want, super fine detail, a little bit looser, that's up to you. Alright. We're getting close, guys. Now this one, same thing. I'm going to go a little bit darker with the edge of this stem. And here I have to add white. I'm going to have to go in with opaques because I made it too dark. And so if I want to get back to the white of the paper, I either got to rub it out or put in white. And I can just put in white, and that'll be fine. Now this pumpkin is a lot smoother here, but now it doesn't match the other pumpkins. So I do want to make that a little bit different. Let me get the top of this one, and then we're almost done. We have to be, because I only have 1 minute left. So these lines over here, I'm just going to make really light. Or try to make them light. Not as light as I thought they would be. Let me see. They really don't have lines in here. But because the other ones do, I do want to kind of get them in there. Okay, we're going to go over a little bit because I do want to show you how to. I'm just going to put some opaques in here, and again, I could rub it out, but I'm just going to, like on the side of this one, I'm just going to take a little bit of opaque and just let it be white with opaques. And I do that a lot lately because I don't use masking fluid, and I just find it just as easy to use white paint, and it looks just as good. Now I wouldn't never hand this into like some of those societies that you can't do opaques to, but this will never go into those anyway. So a bit of light here. And there's nothing in the back that's light, but I'm going to do a little reflected light right there. On the edge there a little bit. And there we have it. There we have pumpkins that are orange, but with a lot of other colors in it. Hope that makes sense. Hope you got the idea. That you don't always have to make it all exactly like the photo. You can actually add other things to it. I'm making this part a little bit darker, a little bit more lines. This is where I put my name right there to get my eye to go back up in this area. This area I'd leave alone because it's just a dark, and you just want it to be sitting back as much as this too, where it just is in the background there. All right. Any other questions, put them into the comments section. I still answer them even after. If you come back later and you didn't answer the question now, but you want it then later, just ask it in the description of the video, and I'll answer it there. I'm just going to lighten this up a little bit. See how I just lighten up? There we go. All right, guys. Thanks again for watching. And look for my newsletter next week, and I'll show you how to make that palette. Because I'm making my own palettes now, and I really like the one I'm going to make. I really think it's going to be really nice. And I'm going to show you how to make it on YouTube in my newsletter. And then on Sunday, I'm not sure what I'm painting, but it's probably next week we're probably going to be doing a spooky, like not an overcast, like a blurry morning scene, I think, with a lot of mist. I was going to do that this week, but Marie asked me to do one, and I'm going to try to do that. All right. So we'll see you on Sunday, and then next Thursday.